This Saturday, we have Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Very good fight. Very much looking forward to this one. I'm glad it's happening because it's been talked about for a while, this fight, but it always seemed a bit uncertain, a bit tentative as to whether it actually happened. But here it is. Seems to be locked in, and I think it's safe to break this one down and make a prediction. So, as I say, I'm very much looking forward to this fight. I think it's going to be a competitive fight for however long it lasts. And how long does it last? I think might be the $1 million question. I think that this is a real step up for both guys. This will probably be the acid test for both of them. And I know there are some American Gervonta Davis fans who are probably howling at their screens right now because they think he's got one of the best resumes of all active fighters. That's just not the case. Like, Gervonta Davis is a good fighter and he's fought a lot of good opposition, a lot of solid opposition, but I don't think he's had that real step up. Like, his first step up was Jose Pedraza, an undefeated Jose Pedraza, which he does deserve credit for because that was a good performance from him, good breakout performance. Francisco Fonseca, Ryan Garcia flattened him in one round. Um, who else? Urielkis Gamboa. Gamboa was completely shot when Davis fought him. So I don't know how much credit you want to put into that win. And for my money, Davis didn't look good in that Gamboa fight. He looked sluggish, didn't look particularly good. When you consider that Gamboa, he was really there for the taking in that fight. But it went 12 rounds. Yeah. Leo Santa Cruz, he's obviously a name, good fighter as well, but quite a bit smaller than Gervonta Davis. Mario Barrios, he's. I remember when they were marketing that fight a couple of years ago, it was like this seen as this massive challenge because Barrios is so much bigger than Gervonta Davis. Barrios started his career at a lighter weight than Gervonta Davis did, so I don't know how much credit you want to give him for that. Isaac Cruz, he's a good fighter, unheralded, but definitely a good fighter. And yeah, it gave Gervonta Davis a competitive fight from what I can remember. Then you have Rolando Romero, make of him what you will. Same with Hector Luis Garcia. So this is a good step up for both guys. And I think this has the ingredients to be a good fight because both guys are quite young. Obviously, Tank's a bit older, he's 28. Ryan Garcia's younger, he's 24. I think both guys have a point to prove. This is one of those high pressure fights. Two youngish guys who really want to go out there and make a statement. And I think that's what we're going to get. I think we're going to get a very comprehensive victory either way. From a stylistic perspective, both guys I think have the power to hurt each other, but I think Davis is a bit more skilled. There's I like Ryan Garcia. I think he's a good fighter. I think he deserves credit because he clearly has abilities. Very quick, very powerful, particularly with that left hook. That left hook really is smoking. But I don't know, with Ryan Garcia, there's like a greenness to him. Just what I see. This is just my opinion. There's like a greenness to him, not just physically regarding his technique, but mentally. And this is potentially where he proves a lot of people wrong. Maybe he proves me wrong in this fight. But with Gervonta Davis, he's one of those street guys, yes, and does really questionable and downright scummy things outside the ring sometimes. But I think Gervonta Davis is a real dog. I think he believes in himself. I don't think because you get fighters that they're on top and they're unstoppable because they have like a bit of a bully mentality. With Gervonta Davis, I think if you want to keep him off you in like a psychological sense, if that makes sense, you have to like really nail him and probably take him out. Otherwise, he'll do what he has to do to win. Whereas Ryan Garcia, I think, with the mental health issues, and I'm not using this in any kind of pejorative way or I'm trying to insult Ryan Garcia, but I'm just saying it how I see it. I think there is weakness when it comes to Garcia from a psychological point of view. And I think against Gervonta Davis, he's the kind of guy that might sniff that out. But that's the mental stuff. I think from a technical perspective, I do think Gervonta Davis does have the advantage in skill, although Ryan Garcia, I think he may have some success commanding his fight at long range. However, there are a few issues for both guys because Gervonta Davis, he's a smaller guy. He's one of those garden gnomes that you see in boxing. But the thing is, he's used to it. And I talk about this quite often about how size goes both ways. It's not the smaller fighter is always at a disadvantage, the bigger fighter is always at an advantage. You get smaller fighters, say, and because they understand how to use their size or lack thereof, they actually have a decent amount of success. Because if you imagine, okay, I'm shorter than you by a few inches, probably have a shorter reach than you, maybe shorter arms. Firstly, I could make myself a smaller target. Secondly, I'm probably a bit more mobile, a bit more agile, which Gervonta Davis is. He moves very well. He's got some very good body control, and you can just see that he's quite a good natural athlete. Additionally, a shorter fighter probably does work well or work better in up close, at close range. I don't think Gervonta Davis really is that much of an inside fighter. I think he likes to kind of dance around the periphery, move around, see what he can find. And I think he likes his leaping shots. He likes you to come onto him and then he can time you because he does have good timing, especially when you look to trade with him. And that's probably where my primary concern is with Ryan Garcia is I don't want to say that he gets stuck in, but I think there are vulnerabilities when he does. I've never been entirely sold or impressed by Ryan Garcia from a defensive point of view. I think he's actually quite underdeveloped there. I've never really seen him show any kind of impressive defensive awareness. And he has this weird idiosyncrasy that I just can't get out of my head. If you watch him, and Ryan Garcia's been around for years. Obviously he was on social media and stuff. So I've seen Ryan Garcia do this for so long. When he fights, when he hits the bag, when he hits the pads, he sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes he'll close his eyes when he really loads up on his shots. Like he'll throw a right hand, throw a left hook, and on impact, you can see that his eyes are closed. And that's just like it's a small thing, but it's a real no-no because when you consider that, okay, he's doing this, plus he's not very defensively responsible a lot of the time. And Gervonta Davis has got a decent few knockouts where he's punching with someone at the same time, trading, and he takes them out clean. Oh, I don't know, it might be a recipe for disaster for Garcia. But that aside, Garcia, I think he's just a bit too straight up and down. There's he works in a very linear fashion. He's fairly tall and he's quite upright. You don't really see much of a movement from him. He doesn't really utilize the ring that well, whereas Gervonta Davis does. That being said, I think that Ryan Garcia does have good enough timing and he's sharp enough to probably get Davis's respect. So I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of see Davis on a bit of a maybe he gets forced to take a bit of a scouting mission for the first few rounds where Ryan Garcia looks as if he's in control, forcing Gervonta Davis back. I think Gervonta Davis does like the lead glove control quite a bit, and he does that quite well. That's quite common to see in the Southpaw v Orthodox matchup. A lot of Davis work does come off of that. And Ryan Garcia, if you watch his fights, particularly against Fortuna, he did a decent job of timing that lead glove control. So as Fortuna would extend that glove to meet, Ryan Garcia would look to hook around it, sometimes line up a right hand. So Ryan does have that good timing. But I think Davis probably, he moves well. He has better defensive ability, I think. You can still time him. Sometimes Davis, I don't know, he fights a bit lazily and maybe relies on his athleticism or his reflexes a bit too much. He could probably be a bit more proactive in his movements. And that's one thing I've always said about Davis is I remember when he was coming up, this must have been 2015, I think was the first time I saw one of his fights. And I was really impressed because he looked so experienced. There were so many moving parts. He had a great active guard, great shot selection that worked off of that. Whereas sometimes in these more recent fights and in the past few years, I don't know, he just gets a little bit lazy, I think. And it's frustrating because I think Davis can do more. But nevertheless, he is still an effective fighter. So yeah, I think the early rounds, maybe up into the mid rounds, will go to Ryan. Just where Davis maybe concedes. Maybe he sees the sharpness, maybe blocks a couple shots and realises, okay, this guy can actually punch. But then eventually I do think Davis will tag Ryan Garcia. And, I think Ryan Garcia, for the most part, does have heart. But I think when he's tagged with one of those big shots, I don't even know if heart will be a factor. Because if his legs go, have as much heart as you want, but if you can't stand up, you can't stand up. So that's just how I see this fight. It's not the most comprehensive breakdown because I've been so busy, it's unreal. But hey, I feel like I've got my point across. I'm going with Gervonta Davis in the mid rounds. I want to say 6 or 7. But as I say, I think early on it will be competitive. And then, looking at the fight, probably look as if Ryan Garcia is in control. But I think he'll get caught with something eventually. And I think that might be curtains. So, yeah, that's my prediction. Gervonta Davis, round 6 or 7 stoppage. Probably a clean one as well. Probably a clean one. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you agree, disagree? Is there anything you feel I've missed out? Any important factors? Leave it down below, I'll get back to you.